and recording has started. And this morning, I'm excited to have uh, Carrie Kirk from Learning Services. She's an instructor. She's going to be talking to us about assignments that encourage student engagement, interaction, and online courses. So, Carrie, thank you for being here this morning.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. All right, so is everybody ready to start?
I'm ready.
All right, sounds great. So first I'll start by just apologizing. I've had several computer issues this morning, so I had to come into the office and I have a classroom beside me and they're running. So if I'm not talking loud enough and clear enough, please just let me know. So I'll go ahead and start. Today, we're going to be talking about assignments to encourage student engagement and interaction, primarily in an online course. So although some of these problems we face inside the classroom, this is typically to share some resources that will help with some online courses. So we'll be discussing potential problems and we're going to be sharing some possible resources for resolution. So before we begin, I want to acknowledge several people who've blessed me with the opportunity basically to stand on the shoulders of giants. So that goes back to talking about people before us have really laid the foundation and instilled in us some of the knowledge that helps us to share with others. So I'm able to solve many problems I face each day because they've shared their knowledge with me. So today in today's lesson, I'm going to share some things that I learned about observer behavior from Dr. Stephen Bitgood. So observer behavior in the relation to an online course, I want to talk about like attending behavior. How long will the students look at the slide? How much content is on the slide? And I'm going to point out just a few of these things as we go along. But I have to give credit to Dr. Stephen Bitgood for providing me a background in this content. Another group of people that I need to provide credit to is Claudia McDade and Dr. William Polya. They taught me how to analyze data and really taught me how to quantify learning in real time. That enables me to differentiate my instruction as I go. And Scott Beckett for accessibility, creating materials that are in micro slices so that the students, I can access the zone of proximal development with students through back to the research of Vygotsky and how to design content like that. And again, I want to always acknowledge my mom. Without her encouragement, I would be nowhere close to where I am today and the strength that she gave me. So something that I want to talk about a little bit is the primary goal is to teach each other and teach others to really love learning. And this, to instill the love of learning, really creates an independent learner. And I want to address this at the base here. When we're looking at learning as an instructor, we have a behavior that we're trying to target, and that's engagement with the content, interaction with the content, to apply the skills we are talking about in different generalizations, really. But so that is represented as the B right here. Yet we oftentimes don't have access directly to the behavior of a student in an online environment the same way that we do in a real-time environment. So I want to address the A, which is the antecedent. An antecedent is basically what stimuli do we have access to help to influence basically the behavior. And I want to look at a little bit the consequences that we also have access to. So the consequences, when you're talking about to increase behavior, predominantly you use reinforcement. So reinforcement is to increase that behavior. Really, the consequence that we have access to as instructors is grades. I intentionally made this C small because the consequences that we have access to as a reinforcer, it is limited. So we have points and grades we can give, but we also understand that the history of those grades, it minimizes our ability to use grades as a reinforcer simply because the history that exists there. if we're looking at it, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer or anything, but if we're looking at this consequence as our means to increase behaviors, their history is going to school. A lot of my students will tell me, well, I went through school and at the very end of the semester or at the end of the year, if I didn't have my grade where I needed it to be, I could simply ask the teacher for bonus work, or I could ask, to do a quick project, and then I could get a bunch of points right at the end of the semester. So with that history, it limits our ability to really use grades as effectively as we would like. Yet there's still a little bit there because we can manipulate the magnitude of points in relation to grades. We can paste that through our course. That'll help. So primarily we're looking at the antecedent. What kind of stimuli can we create and can we program to help us? So I really think we can design a program that helps us to teach others how to love learning. And I think that it's automatically programmed in a lot of the resources that I have for you today. So I'll be sharing these resources with you. I could go many different directions with this presentation, but I really my goal was to share some helpful resources that I've had experience with, and I wanted to just share them with you so that you have pretty much more tools in your antecedent arsenal than previously, hopefully. So I want to mention I am on a brand spanking new computer, this Microsoft Surface Book Pro. I primarily work on Apple devices. I'm going to be a little bit limited, but nonetheless, the resources and content is still relevant. I also want to point out the irony in this is, yes, I'm talking about interactions, increasing interactions and engagements, and yet this presentation is primarily like a lecture in style. So first and foremost, let's look at QR Code Monkey. So I'll share this presentation with Chris, and then he can distribute it out, or if you want to email me at ckirk, C-K-I-R-K, @jsu.edu, you can gain access to this. What I've done is I've built these resources in here. QR Code Monkey, I really love it because this QR Code Monkey I use to create scannable QR codes, post them directly into my presentations. This just makes it really easy for students to grab their phone, use their camera, zoom in on it, and gain direct access to any of the content that I've loaded. It is a lot faster during the interaction with the content. So this, I don't have to put any URLs in there. I don't have to have any copy paste or any typing. It basically will streamline the students to the content. So I like to combine this resource, the Poll Monkey, QR Code Monkey, with other resources just to basically direct the students to the content. So let's look at the next thing. So I'll use this as a channel. So the next resource I want to share is a Poll Everywhere activity. It's often presented as a quick survey, yet it has a lot more to offer that include questions that are open-ended. It's a yes, no, multiple choice. Something I really love about Poll Everywhere that a little bit fewer people know about is that it has clickable images. So if I wanted to use it in a lab, or if I wanted to use it to label maps or things like that, I could select images and I could have the students click on the images and label the images. The activity we'll be using, like I said, I'm limited because of my new computer this morning. The activity that I had originally planned on using is a word cloud activity in the next slide to answer a question. My videos right here are basically quick tutorials. I will have skipping them as I move through the content, but I wanted to share those. So if you guys want more detail, in-depth detail about these resources, you can use it. So this right here is not necessarily for us to engage in. I just wanted to open up this slide to show you something that I would use often in my classes. And we're going to discuss some elements of the design of this slide, and we're going to discuss different things that are presented in this slide. So in the slide first, you can see at the top the size of the font and how it's like, how do you define engagement? And then we have type 3 responses. In this slide too, there's 3 accessibility channels and 3 different ways for students to gain access to the content. So the common thread in that is something I want to point out about a word cloud is the words that the students use most frequently will appear larger. So it provides a visual cue of the word most often used that students will use to describe or define a concept, and the words that are less frequent will appear as smaller. So in using word clouds, they provide those visual representations. By design, the word cloud increases engagement because it does require interaction and effort. And there are a few other features in this word cloud activity that I like that increases interaction and engagement. So the first feature that can be increased in interaction engagement is providing clear expectations. So a lot of times I'll have students who do not engage with the content because it was really a matter of my instructions. They were not clear, and it was difficult for them to figure out exactly what I was asking them to do. So notice on this example right here, how I have this type 3 responses, words or phrases. It's concise, it's direct. So in the activity, those 3 words or phrases to define engagement helps the students have a very easy way to understand these instructions. In addition, it provides an opportunity for a choice. So this choice right here, they can either use 3 different words or they can use 3 different phrases or a mixture of both. So this choice addresses the next feature, which involves workload. So when the students have the ability to predict the workload, basically how long it will take them to engage and complete an assignment, a lot of times I see an increase in interaction and engagement in that. I want to address an issue that workload really targets as well that I see in a lot of early learners. Students that I primarily work with are freshman students, and the workload is the issue I have with them. It's endurance. Like, how long will they stick to any particular task and stay on task? So in this word activity that they can predict, it's really going to take less than 1 minute to complete the activity. So by me adjusting the workload and keeping it low at the beginning of the semester, even students who exhibit issues with endurance, they tend to participate. And when they begin participating, then I can start to be intentional in building their endurance by incrementally increasing those workloads. So by the end of the semester, I am aiming to get them engaged in a task for a straight consecutive hour to 2 hours in length. The next thing I want to talk about in that slide is lastly, engagement can be increased by providing accessibility choices. In that example I used, there were 3 different ways the word cloud activity could be accessed, which included clicking directly on the link. So if I share the presentation, all they have to do is click. Or they can type the URL. Sometimes if the link is not working properly or something like that, then I really like to load the actual URL right there that they can type straight into their browser. The third choice to access it is to simply scan in, open up their camera on their cell phone and focus on the QR code, and that will take them to the activity. So, although choices are good, we need to be careful when we offer choices to optimize choice-making behavior. There is a relationship that exists between the number of choices being offered and choice-making behavior. When we offer too many choices, we actually see that the chooser really backs away from actually engaging in it. So within Business Insider, the authors recommend keeping the number of choices being offered between 8 to 15 in order to increase choice making and prevent choice overload. I wanted to share a slide that I think a lot of us can really relate to. And the following slide represents a choice overload. So let's see what you think about this. Has everybody had an experience with that right there? All right, well,
Yeah, yes, it's overwhelming, honestly.
it is overwhelming. And when you really start to count the interactions, when you start to count, there's 40 different milkshake choices individually, but you can mix up to 4 flavors in one milkshake. What you see, if you wanted to do an observation of people making choices off of a cookout menu, what you will see, it takes them longer to choose. And what you also see is people tend to just pick what they're familiar with and they don't choose other items. So really, if the goal is to get people to make more choices, they would really have to scale back their menus. So I tried to share this as relatable content to represent another problem with engagement and it's called choice overload. So we can be careful in how we design our spaces. So you can see right here on this slide itself, there's really just 2 targets to look at. So you have to think about how the observer looks at the screen. So this is another one of my favorite resources. I use this to create choice boards. And keep in mind what Business Insider said by their research they found is to keep our choices between 8 and 15. But how I use this blend space, and you can watch the videos later that provides more detail about it, is I use it to create choice boards. And the reason why I like it is because blend space is a multimedia creator that will pull topic content in one search space. And the way that it displays on the screen, it displays as interactive tiles for students to interact with. I like that because multimedia, I can put in documents, videos, ed puzzles, any kind of content that I want, and I can display it within like nine tiles on the same screen. It's beautiful to interact with, and I get really good reports from students when I use Blend Space that they love it. So another easy to use resource is Nearpod. I've used Nearpod for several years across a variety of different age students, anywhere from kindergarten up to, 60-year-old learners. So Nearpod I use, it's an add-on in Google Slides. It provides opportunity to create interactive lessons. And I like Nearpod because it works well with Google Slides. I can insert videos with embedded questions. It's built into Nearpod, so it's basically a one-stop shop for me to get an interactive lesson built. I can do matching games by images or by words and phrases. I like that because sometimes I need images in my instruction. I can use quizzes with a variety of formats straight into the slide presentation. In a slide presentation, I generally go by a rule of thumb that I'll have 2 content slides, and then I'll follow it with an application exercise across like a Bloom's taxonomy kind of concept. The variety of formats of quizzes, they're fill in the blank, true, false, or multiple choice. It also provides a racing game where students can compete either in live sessions, if I'm leading a synchronous online course, or they can compete asynchronously. And then the results can be provided at a release date that the instructor sets up. Nearpod has a free version. It's pretty close to what you see in Pear Deck, but Nearpod goes a little bit beyond Pear Deck with the tools that it offers inside Google Slides. And there is a free version of Nearpod, but I also like the paid version. I think it's really reasonable for a subscription of $120 a year. So each Nearpod interaction lesson, the one thing I don't like about it is that it limits my students to 50 responders per presentation. So my workaround for that is if I have more than 50 students that I need to gather data on and I want to put out for this interactive lesson, I'll just simply copy the lesson and name one 1 and the second lesson 2, exact replication of the lesson, and I'll create groups as a workaround on that. So Nearpod uses a lot of audio, video formats. It also uses the images. And so then I also want to talk a little bit more about videos. When I'm embedding videos, I spend a lot of time trying to find some good videos to use in my instruction that are short, because honestly, it gets to be really, it bogs down a presentation when the video is running for 30 minutes. I see that my students disengage, their attending behavior decreases. So this is a great, efficient resource right here called ClassHook. It offers short video clips from a variety of television shows and movies. So a little while ago, we mentioned the antecedent. What stimuli do you have access to that can help to increase interaction and engagement with the students? You can find relatable content here by doing a quick preference assessment at the beginning of your semester. Just survey the students, asking them, hey, what do you watch on YouTube? Like open-ended, you can get a list of what you watch on YouTube. What's your favorite TikTok videos? Share some links, send me some links of your favorite TikTok videos that you watch. What are some other shows that you enjoy watching? And you can send out that information for a preference assessment. That will help guide which videos that you can use out of ClassHook to engage your students, because then they're interacting with content that they already have a reinforcement history with. So I like this ClassHook because it also makes sure that all the videos I open up are appropriate and they're all short, super easy. I can do a search by topic. So that's a video content that I like to use. And that's in the instructor side. But then beyond ClassHook, another video platform, but now I'm putting the video platform in the hands of the students, and basically Flipgrid. It provides a video and audio platform for them to respond to questions and discuss topics. So I like giving the students a voice too and engaging them more in the content in this platform. Super easy to use. It's an app they can download on their cell phone, and all they do is use it just like they video anything else. They push the red button and they video themselves. So I like to pair students. This is one way I use this. I can pair students for them to present micro lessons on specific class topics in our course that last 2 minutes. I like the ability in Flipgrid, I can limit the amount of time. Like if I want to make the micro lesson 1 minute, 2 minutes, or 3 minutes, I can post that. And then it creates a platform, a shared collaborative space for the rest of the students. They can watch the posted video while they complete the accompanying assignment. So there are several other ways to use Flipgrid. And on the bottom right corner of this slide right here, you see that this is a huge list of different ideas and ways to integrate Flipgrid into your instruction. And so I wanted to share that link as well. I like using Flipgrid too as quick get-to-know-you 1-minute videos. And I can also use Flipgrid for my preference assessment for students to address different questions and post it in a video audio format. So beyond Flipgrid, so that's some audio video formats, platforms, and resources to use. I work a lot with students annotating text because 85% of independent learning from the National Reading research, 85% of what we learn independently comes from reading. And so this is a beautiful resource, insertlearning.com. In this resource, I can use any web page to create an interactive lesson. And what's sweet about it is within the web page, I can add highlights. Anywhere on the web page, I can, separate the web page and embed videos for internet or Flipgrid comments. I can insert questions or comments. I can add sticky notes. So I enjoy using this resource for annotating a variety of readings, especially across science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. It's excellent for the students to use in annotating assignments and readings. And these annotations can be used in the next resource to find relationships existing within and between various readings. So this next resource is one of my favorite for reshaping the annotations into flowcharts, and that's a reading strategy called SQ6R, and the reshape is the 6R, and it's called Spider Scribe. I like Spider Scribe to collaborate on concept maps across readings because concept maps are one of the easiest tools to use when looking for relationships between readings to find common elements to organize the content. So Spider Scribe makes the concept mapping process more efficient because it functions on a template. All the students have to do is simply grab a shape and slide it anywhere on the screen that they want to place it, and they can type directly into it, and then they grab lines and connect those cells. So this really decreases the amount of workload for the students also because they're not learning how to design flowcharts. And so I like that because they're not having to use any other software program. And it's pretty much a template that they can use. It's ready, and you can make it individualized for each student. They can use it for themselves. So moving beyond video, audio, and web page interactions, there's additional resources that I like to use that really gamify quizzes. So the first site I would like to show that gamifies quizzes is Kahoot. I like Kahoot because it's one of the only quiz games that I can use images or clipped videos to ask questions about. So I can search a YouTube video, I can put in transitions where it zooms into the image and ask students about the image. I like that. None of the other gamified quizzes have I found have that same ability. So I would rate Kahoot a bit higher than the other quiz games, but what I don't like about Kahoot is that it holds all the students on the same question until all the students that have joined in that particular Kahoot in a synchronous course, online course, they finish answering. So it can be set up as an asynchronous activity that removes this element, but when it's played asynchronously, it loses some of its excitement. So another game-like resource for quizzes is called Quiz Is. What I like about Quiz is it's faster than Kahoot. Students are able to move at their own pace, and it makes it a lot more fun. Quizzes, however, does not have the same flexibility as Kahoot concerning using images or videos, but both Kahoot and Quizzes present questions one by one. Whereas, so that's a little bit of a limitation on these, the next game-like quiz can present questions in a Jeopardy-style format. And it's called Flip Quiz. So Flip Quiz offers an interactive Jeopardy-style game-like quiz. It also involves interactive choice and memory matching games. So I like the flexibility in Flip Quiz because it's fun to play and I can use it to increase interaction and engagement, which is often obtained through having classroom manipulatives. So we're not in person with those manipulatives. But the advancement in technology, I find it's a tool that we could embed these interactive style activities in our courses. It's fascinating to me. So I want to share one last resource that I am impressed with. And it's beautiful because it allows me to create and offer simulations in more of a lab style format, but it's online. So it's things that science students, biology, anatomy, physiology, chemistry students would be engaging in inside the laboratory. And it provides students an opportunity to gain access to these in an online format. It's just beautiful. So it is called, I say PhET, I may pronounce it wrong, but it's a resource that offers interactive simulations in, like I mentioned, biology, physics, and chemistry, where students have access to digital manipulatives to conduct different experiments that produce simulations. So I would definitely recommend PhET because they can build circuits, they can look at how electricity moves, they can deconstruct element compounds and all kinds of things. But so it's an additional resource. And so far, I've shared like resources that may function primarily in literature or may function in informative assessments, but this functions more in a laboratory setting in an online content. So I hope that this list of resources, it has been helpful for increasing engagement and interaction in the online classroom. Although the real-time in-class interactions are not available in an online class, I do believe technology can be harnessed and used to program these interactions that provide immediate feedback on respondings and specificity relating back to the learning objectives. Something I really want to highlight is that immediacy of feedback. That right there will help us to gain access to correct errors quickly and to remove that from learners' repertoires. It also will help us to provide information quickly to the students to help shape their learning experience. So thank you for joining me in this session today about resources. I hope it was helpful for you to address issues relating, that we've mentioned, such as clear expectations, taking into consideration the workload that we're presenting to students with basically an intentional goal to build their endurance and on-task behaviors, and to provide some choices for them to engage with that are limited between 8 to 15 to optimize that choice-making behavior, and choices across accessibility, different ways to access and gain the interactive experience through a variety of assignments and through a variety of resources. So I think I was a little bit nervous and talked a little bit fast. I hope that those 12 resources I shared with you today is something that you may be able to use in your courses to hopefully address some of the interactions and engagement issues that we face with our students. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Carrie, for talking to us today. I'm curious about what everyone else thinks. I'm excited. There's a couple of these that you mentioned I'd never heard of before, and I've been writing this all down, by the way, because I'm nerdy that way. And I'm really excited about the insert learning source. I've never heard of that. I'm going to give that a try. And Spider Scribe too. So it was funny because I've been looking for a free chart maker or diagram maker. MindMeister used to be good, but you have to pay for it now, and Lucid Chart as well. So
Right. I spend a lot of time looking for free resources too, and just a few will I pay for. I have in the past paid for IXL. If you're working with K through 12 public education, IXL aligns with state standard. It's beautiful and it's pretty cheap. It runs about $10 a month. And then education.com, that's K through 12 as well. That provides really low cost, prepared, state aligned core like workbooks, but it also provides a lot of interactive, engaging game-like activities for learners to practice skills. But I do really find that I use the insertlearning.com because the access to web pages, I'm trying to get my students, you read a web page quite differently than a textbook. It's organized really different, and I'm trying to get them across many different reading contents to really apply these skills, but I get to embed those lessons along the way with really easy to use free tools.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, there's an app called Perusal that some of our faculty are using, and actually integrates with Canvas. And it's an online social e-reader. It's a new way for students to read text together and make notes together. And Dr. Turner and Dr. Ridlin are going to be presenting about that next Wednesday at 2:30. So if any of you are interested in that, you can come to that too. So does anyone have any, let's see, Melinda, yes, if, to answer your question, if Carrie emails me her slides, then I'll send them out to people, or Carrie can send them out. Carrie, it's up to you, but if you send it to me, I'll give it to people.
That'd be great. Thank you, Chris.
Sure. And Allegra, what's up?
Hi, thank you for that presentation, Carrie. I had a question as you were talking about architecting a limited number of choices for students. So I teach technical and professional writing in the English department, and I often find that I'm trying to like mirror real world scenarios that like pose amorphous problems for students. And so I was wondering if you could speak to the nature of providing that like 8 to 15 choices while still giving students like a pre-professional experience. I know it's kind of a vague and ambiguous question.
Well, I like that you're mentioning the real world applications, because that's called generalization. And generalization is using content we read that we may not necessarily connect with immediately, but we do need to be explicit in drawing those things out. And yes, I am also challenged in showing them the real world applications, but limiting our choices to that, I hope this answers it sort of, but providing, I love that first, the tile, the blend space, because I put the 9 tiles up there. So the students who are going into engineering, I try to insert an engineering reading or video, those that are going into technology or literature, whatever it is that they're going to. So I can give a broad application and figure out how to teach my topic with those different contents.
I got it. That's very cool. Thanks. I might talk with you about this further sometime. I find it very interesting. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And doing those concept maps in the design, in the planning of my instruction also helps me, because sometimes I look at like an art piece, I have a reading about art, and then I have a reading about the Innocence Project, and then another one about building circuit boards and cell phones and industry. And those concept maps, when I throw them down on a whiteboard, I can find those connecting elements between 3 articles that initially appear really different from each other, but they share, and I can bridge those and explicitly teach it inside the classroom of how to use these tools to connect various readings across all subjects.
That was a great question there, Allegra. And I also wanted to mention Blend Space. I used Blend Space years ago, and it's great. For some reason I stopped using it, and I've been racking my brain here lately, trying to remember what it was called. I knew it was something space, but I couldn't figure out what it was. And then you gave it to me again. So thank you, Carrie, because I could not remember what it was called. So
You're welcome. And I need to give a shout out to Miss Rowe, who teaches secondary English language arts over in the education department. She has a list of over 150 free or low cost like technologies to integrate into instruction.
okay. Well, if she's willing to share that with us, that'd be great. But you can ask her if you like. Does
Okay.
anyone else have any questions or comments for Carrie today? Okay, well, if no one has anything else to add or to ask, I want to be the first to, well, actually, I'll be the third or the fourth person to say thank you, Carrie, for talking to us this afternoon. This has been fantastic information, and we appreciate your willingness to come and share with your peers and colleagues. So thank you.
You're
Yes.
welcome, and
Thank
thank you for the opportunity.
And everyone, I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Linda.
Bye-bye.